I'm now reading about Biden. China air zone raises risk of accident. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden voiced strong opposition Tuesday to China's new air defense zone above a set of disputed islands, showing a united front with an anxious Japan as tension in the region simmered. Standing side by side in Tokyo with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, Biden said the U.S. is deeply concerned about China's attempt to unilaterally change the status quo in the East China Sea. This action has raised regional tensions and increased the risk of accident and miscalculation, he said. Biden said the U.S. is coordinating closely with allies Japan, South Korea, and others, adding that the U.S. has an interest in lowering tensions in the region. I will be raising these issues with great specificity when I meet with China leadership the day after tomorrow, Biden said. Biden's remarks came as Japan is pressing the U.S. to more actively take Japan's side in an escalating dispute over China's new air defense zone above a set of contested islands in the East China Sea. The U.S. and Japan have refused to recognize China's air defense zone above tiny islands that China and Japan both claim. The U.S. and its allies are concerned China's move is part of the broader strategy to assert increasing authority in the region. The prospect for miscalculation and mistake is too high, Biden said of the air defense zone. Abe, who met with Biden at the Prime Minister's residence here Tuesday, said he and Biden confirmed that neither country would tolerate the attempt to change the status quo by force. He invoked Japan's decades-long alliance with the U.S. in pledging the two would work closely to deal with the situation. At the same time, Abe appeared to try to smooth over a minor rift that emerged between the U.S. and Japan as Biden headed to the region over whether commercial airlines should comply with China's demand that they file flight planes before should comply with China's demand that they file flight planes before flying through the zone. Japanese leaders were concerned after word came that the U.S. was advising American carriers in line with existing protocol to comply with such requests from foreign governments. We agreed we will not condone any action that could threaten safety of civilian aircraft, Abe said, reluctant to to cede any ground. Tokyo has been urging Japanese commercial flights not to notify China before flying through the zone. Word that the U.S. had advised American commercial carriers to comply rankled leaders in Tokyo, who are hoping a united front with the U.S. will increase pressure on Beijing to reverse course. But senior Obama administration officials said Tuesday that the U.S. never told American commercial carriers to comply specifically with China's demands. Rather, the Federal Aviation Administration merely reaffirmed existing policy that pilots should comply with such instructions anywhere in the world, said the officials, who weren't authorized to comment by name and demanded anonymity. The zone covers more than 600 miles from north to south, above international waters, separating China, South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. China says all aircraft entering the zone must notify Chinese authorities beforehand or face unspecified defensive measures. Although the U.S. has joined Japan and other allies in refusing to recognize the zone, Washington has treaded carefully, wary of creating a new fault line in its relationship with China, just as the U.S. is pursuing a new era of economic cooperation with Beijing. The show of united between Biden and Abe will be closely watched by China, as well as other Asian nations, worried that the new defense zone may portend further steps by China to assert control in the region. On Monday, China's ambassador to the Philippines claimed China has a sovereign right to establish a similar zone over the South China Sea, where China and the Philippines are locked in another long-running territorial dispute. The feud promises to trail Biden throughout his week-long trip to Asia, a tour intended to affirm Washington's continued interest in upping its presence in the region, in part to counter China's growing influence. After a working dinner with Abe on Tuesday night, Biden will fly to Beijing. On Wednesday to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, where officials said Biden would raise U.S. concerns over the zone would raise U.S. concerns over the zone. Biden would raise U.S. concerns over the zone directly. Biden will then travel Thursday to South Korea, another U.S. ally at odds with China over the air defense zone. Japan, which claims the island as its own, is concerned that compliance with China's demands will allow China to slowly solidify its claim to the tiny island and the strategical important waters that surround them. The United States sees rising tensions between China and its neighbors as a threat to U.S. interests and is concerned that the tense atmosphere increases the likelihood of an incident in the air spiraling out of control. The U.S. doesn't take a position on the island's sovereignty, but acknowledges that Japan administers them, meaning U.S. treaty obligations to defend Japan could come into play. After a morning meeting with Japanese lawmakers and Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso, Biden made his way to Shibuya, a bustling Tokyo district and fashion center, where he toured a technology company founded by a female entrepreneur to highlight the role of women in Japan's economy. U.S. Ambassador to Japan Caroline Kennedy joined Biden as he mingled with young employees in a chic 24th floor lunchroom overlooking Tokyo's sprawling skyline. At a round table later with business executives, Biden said he'd heard some say women are good in the workforce because they are kinder and gentler. I have never found that to be the case, Biden said to Laughter. They're as tough, they're as strong, they're as everything as a man is, and vice versa. I'm now reading about Bosch's heroics lift Miami past Charlotte 99-98. Chris Bosch watched his first three-pointer bounce once, twice, 3 times, 4 times before finally dropping into the net. His next try from almost the same spot swished, and the third one essentially saved the Miami Heat. A threesome of three-pointers. He had never made that many in an NBA quarter. Say nothing of his 79-second span Sunday night, highlighted a run where Bosh scored 13 straight Miami points, and the Heat beat the Charlotte Bobcats 99-98 to extend their winning streak to 10 games. The Heat led for the final 1-20. The time remaining when Bosh's third three put Miami up to 93-91. Charlotte had held the lead for the previous 23-21. It kind of just happened, Bosh said. I was wide open, so I figured that would take a step back and, in the words of our late teammate Mike Miller, let it fly. That was really it. LeBron James led the Heat with 26 points. Bosh finished with 22. Dwyane Wade scored 17, and Mario Chalmers added 12 for Miami, which has beaten the Bobcats 14 straight times. Kemba Walker scored 27 points for the Bobcats. Garrett Henderson scored 17, and A.L. Jefferson finished with 16 points and 13 rebounds for Charlotte. It's disappointing because I felt that it's disappointing because I felt we had them. We'd outplayed them. Henderson said. They just came up with the plays at the end of the game that championship teams tend to do. The Bobcats outscored Miami 25-14 in the third quarter and led by 14 points with 9-14 left. And then Miami scored 34 points in the final 8-20, which works out to a 196-point pace over a four regulation game. The Heat made 11 of their final 13 shots, with Bosh's 3-second leading the way. West getting an assist on all three of them. It started with us, Bobcats coach Steve Clifford said. Instead of playing possession by possession, we made mistakes. They started going to the basket and we couldn't get them under control. James was highly effective again, scoring his 26 on only 13 shots, and while dealing a bulky back that has bothered him all season and flared up Friday in Toronto. James got treatment Saturday, received more Sunday until the start of pre-game warm-ups, and played 30 play 38 minutes. I don't think we did anything bad in the game, James said. We defended, we hit some tough shots. We didn't turn the ball over. I think we had only 14 turnovers. They didn't have a bunch of offensive rebounds. They didn't have many fast break points. Just one of those games where you have got to just one of those games where just one of those games where we just one of those games where you have just one of those games where you've got to gut it out. Just one of those games where you have just one of those games where you have got it. Just one of those games where you've got to gut it out. Just one of those games where you've got to gut it out, and we'll take it. And we'll take it. And we'll take it. The Heat were down 12 when James re-entered the game with 8 minutes and 4 seconds left. He quickly got a 3-point play to cut the lead to 79-70, and things got interesting. A three-pointer from James with 6 minutes and 18 left cut the lead to 6. He made a pass to Chalmers for another 3 about 90 seconds later, getting Miami within 3. Soon, the Bosch long-range display began. Chris stepped up big. Head coach Eric Spoelstra said, once he hit the first one, the second one, you could tell he wanted it. Charlotte scored the first 6 points of the second half. Then opened things up with a 16-8 run. The Bobcats made 5 straight shots, all jumpers from an average of 18 feet, while the Heat missed their final 5 of the quarter and trailed 73-61. Entering the fourth, things weren't decided until the final 7/10 of a second. Walker was fouled while shooting a free with Miami up 4. He made the first 2 free throws, tried to miss the third intentionally, but his shot bounced in, and time expired 1 pass later. We didn't think we had it, Walker said. This is the NBA. Guys can score and be back in a game in a heartbeat. That's why they did. Miami led by 10 twice during the first half before the Bobcats put together an 18-7 run and took a 1-point halftime lead. Wade was credited with his second block of the night on a final play before halftime, the SWAT being number 676 of his career, the most recorded by an NBA player standing 6'4" or shorter. Dennis Johnson was the holder of that distinction, getting 675 blocks in 1,100 games. Sunday was the Wade's 679th game. Notes: during one stoppage in play late in the first half, James shot a pair of three-pointers that bounced off the rim. Noteworthy because he shot them left-handed. He writes with his left hand, but plays with a dominant right hand. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist returned to the Charlotte lineup after missing one game with plantar fasciitis in his right foot. To some observers, President Obama's decision to sign off on an interim deal to freeze Iran's nuclear program sends an unmistakable message to the Middle East. The U.S. is backing away from the region, and in a big way. Obama has now announced that the women everywhere are saving thousands of dollars on plastic surgery by reducing the appearance of wrinkles from the comfort of their own home. Global trolling U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has left on a new trip, heading first for key NATO talks, before then traveling to Israel, aiming to soothe concerns over a nuclear deal with Iran. The top U.S. diplomat will also pay a landmark visit to the former Soviet satellite of AFP. The top UN official charged with destroying Syria's chemical weapons stockpile on Monday warned that the most difficult part of its mission in a conflict-ridden country will still lay ahead. Meanwhile, a top Syrian official has urged countries to start acting to help. Computer crashes should be given away to insurance coverage if the government's diagnosis of its health care website is correct. By Alexei Enshachuk. Hundreds of people marched through the capital of Armenia on Monday to denounce visiting Russian President Vladimir Putin and protest against plans to join a Moscow-led customs union. Some of the estimated crowd. By Mark, the United States pledged support for ally Japan on Wednesday in a growing dispute with China over islands in the East China Sea, and senior U.S. administration officials accused Beijing of behavior. 77% of Israelis believe the recent Iran deal will not stop it from going nuclear.